In working with hundreds of families, we've discovered one thing they all seem to have in common. In mediations, we send people intake work beforehand, and one of the questions in the middle of it asks, have you been to court? And the next question is, if so, did that help or hurt the way that you relate and cooperate? And interestingly, we have never had one set of parents out of the hundreds that we've worked with, one set of parents say, you know, that helped us. And overwhelmingly, parents say, this is the worst thing that happened to us. And my friend Judge George Beamer, who's a senior judge in our community and has heard cases, I think, for 35 years now, said once to me, almost none of these hearings should have happened. Almost none of them should happen. And I want to briefly share warnings with you about over-reliance on the law, motions, hearing, rulings, also custody evaluations. Everything that could be said about unnecessary hearings can be said about unnecessary custody evaluations. In other words, where you are sent to or agree you're going to go to a psychologist and who's going to examine you and give you tests and then say who's the better parent, who's the worst parent. Now, if you have a dangerous situation and the courts absolutely need to step in and sort of take custody of your family and run it for a while, which is already a difficult and doubtful proposition. But if you have that, a true dangerous circumstance, maybe you need to use court. But I want to warn against, I want to share with you 5 reasons that you maybe should be very, very careful about thinking about using court in just your ordinary family case. Reason 1 to be careful, it is an inherently adversarial experience. You're going to be standing across from each other in a courtroom or sitting across from each other at different tables in a courtroom. It's a strange, strange environment. It's win-lose thinking. We're going to this authority figure and people are not going in there for the most part saying anything good about each other, remembering anything good. It's talking about here are all the problems in this case and by the way, it's all this other person. Again, we have never had a set of parents say that this helped us, that we felt better about each other, we had better communication, more trust, more cooperation after we had this experience. It's inherently adversarial. A second reason to be careful, judges don't have the answers for you. Judges can give rulings, but judges do not give solutions. Let me give you an example of this. If you have a mom and dad who are arguing over parenting time, I want these days of the week, I want those holidays, no, I want those holidays and these days of the week, what can a judge do in the middle of that conflict? A judge can say, all right, the kids will be with their angry and resentful father on Monday through Thursday and their angry and resentful mother on Friday through Sundays. Well, you know, what kind of solution is that? Only the parents can build better solutions. For the most part, I think in most cases it is rare that the real issue is even being talked about. The real issue usually for couples who are saying, we're so we need you to figure out how we're going to divide Thanksgiving, and now we need you to divide Christmas. Oh, and by the way, the clothes came back dirty. Oh, and by the way, she wasn't at home when I came to pick up the kids, and blah, blah. Now we can't figure out what extracurricular activities to sign the kids up for. What's the real problem in that case? Is it those things? It's probably not those things. The problem here is that the parents are not working well together. They do not have a focus on the kids in the future. They have a focus on each other in the past. So it is inherently unlikely that a judge's decision is going to make anything better, and the experience of going to court is probably going to make things worse. Reason number 3 to be cautious about using court or custody evaluations or any of these related processes, motions, hearing, rulings, and so forth, is that doing so leads to all the wrong issues. It leads to all the wrong questions. All of a sudden, parents are asking, you know, who wins this issue? Not how do we build a better partnership for the sake of our kids. We're saying, well, which one of us is going to win? If that's what the question is, we've already lost because the kids are going to lose if the parents are in this competition with each other. It leads to all the wrong questions. It's inherently, therefore, unlikely that the family is going to work together or that the kids and parents are going to do better. Fourth reason to be careful, and this one's a little subtle, but I think you can understand what I'm getting at, and that is it gets us acting as minimalists. Well, how little can I get away with doing for my children? Parents are heroic people. Parents are heroic people. They fight wild animals who attack their kids. They give a kidney for their kids. They give up vacations. They give up, the statistics on how much it costs to raise a child are just astronomical. Most estimates today range somewhere between $80,000 and $200,000 that it costs to raise a child from birth to 18. Look at all these sacrifices that parents make. But when they get a divorce, all of a sudden they're fighting about who's going to pay the $12 for this school photo, or who's going to give up an extra half hour to make some plans work out for the kids. And parents start to look very minimalistic and selfish. Well, they are the same parents who were generous before. What happened? They got involved with the law, and the law is all about minimums. The law is all about minimums. Let me give you an example. The IRS sends you a bill every year, and it says you owe da-da-da-da-da-da, and we send that in. It doesn't mean you couldn't send more money in. In fact, there is in the United States, I think it's called a conscience fund or an amnesty fund. It's for people who know or they feel that they underpaid some taxes at one time and they can send in more money. But we don't. When we are told, well, you've got to send in this money, that's what we send in. Law can only enforce the minimums. So if we say you have to pay $105 in child support, Dad, well, then that's what he thinks. Well, all right, if that's what the law is. Well, what if the kids need Mom to have $130 in a particular week? Look how often an otherwise generous dad now will say, no, this is what the law is. Don't be selfish. That was the minimum. You might have to do something a little bit extra. Mom might have to yield some extra days because some plans at Dad's house. But if she's thinking minimalistically, which is all the law can do is to order these are the minimums, and now because she was forced into this, she's not in a very generous mood, then she says, no, I'm sorry, this is what's just, and you're being selfish to ask for any additional time. Children cannot be successfully raised on a minimum of anything. If we relied on the law, we would have the first generation of minimally educated, minimally loved, minimally nourished, minimally protected kids in the world. It would be the most deprived generation ever. What raises kids is a maximum, a profusion, an overabundance of love and devotion and sacrifice. And this is what we can get lost when we get into the minimalistic views of what law necessarily is about. And let me say one other thing. Law is only going to be able to affect a minimal number of topics. Can law make a mom and dad speak nicely about each other to the kids? No, it can't. Can it make the parents stop rolling their eyes or using a sarcastic tone when the topic of the other parent comes up? Or when the phone rings and dad answers hello? Can the law say, no, you can't say things like, it's your mother on the phone? The law can't do that. It's within the parent's good heart to say, no, I know the difference, and I'm going to say, hey, kids, it's Mom on the phone. She's going to talk to you after I speak to her for a minute. Those huge, huge differences in the kids who are fortunate enough to have parents working together and the kids who are consigned to live in a home where the parents are not supportive of each other have nothing to do with what the law can enforce, because the law is about minimums. And a fifth and final reason to be very careful about the use of law or related processes like motions, hearing, rulings, custody evaluations, and so forth, is that doing so displaces better opportunities, better options. I've seen parents who've spent $25,000 and $50,000 hiring psychologists to evaluate and condemn the other parent and to praise them. And for a fraction of that, for $1,000 or $2,000 of helpful counseling that was actually therapeutic, that was going to help them to work better together rather than to evaluate people and pass judgments on them, they could have been in much better shape. They can use free resources like uptoparents.org. They can use the services of a mediator. All these better alternatives get lost and set aside in the middle of the battle. So be careful. The final, I think, great insult that law can do to people is that it creates the impression it can offer solutions when it cannot, and it turns people's attentions from services that they could receive that would help them a great deal. So there are 5 reasons that I hope that you will be very, very careful about thinking that you can sue each other into a better future. I have never seen it happen. I've asked lawyers and judges, have you ever seen it happen? And the answer uniformly is, you know what, we haven't. We in the legal profession, I think, therefore have to be a little more modest about this and a little better about educating people that the answer lies within you. Whatever the relationship presently is between you and your co-parent, it's probably true, though, that both of you really in your best days want the best for your kids. And there are ways to get there through mediation, through better education, through use of up to parents, through use of counseling that will help you in ways that are manifestly better than suing each other.